is apparently on his way back into town from being out of town. We'll start by quickly going through attendance. And since we have some people online, I guess we'll do our best to keep track of everybody we got. Do we see Chris Bartek?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Tom's here. Steve Kolth? No Steve. Carolyn Martin? Yep. Tom Realm, I see. Lee Tao?
Here.
Mayor Blazer's here. And we've got other city representation as well as Commission Member Pollock sitting in for in attendance. Very good. All right. So we'll call our meeting to order, and the first item for approval is the February 8th, 2021 meeting minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve. So moved. There's a motion to approve. Motion and a second to approve the February 8th, 2021 meeting minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item 3, discussion and possible action on the name of the Wisconsin Rapids Recreation Complex and surrounding park area. And I'm not sure whose agenda item that is.
Okay. I can kind of help with that.
Very good.
So there's been some discussion about a logo, and so we're starting to talk internally a little bit. And I guess you'd probably, this commission would know better, but I don't think there's ever been a discussion on the naming of the aquatic park, other than what it's been called now. And I don't know if the Park and Rec Commission feels that might be the appropriate name, or if we should consider coming up with a name. Obviously, it's at Witter Field. So, if it's something related to Witter Field or such and such park at Witter Field, or if we're all just happy with the way it is, we can just leave it as that. But I know we've never had a formal discussion on it. And I guess before we get going too far into it, maybe it's something that we want to discuss. Have a contest, I don't know.
Well, in my time, I don't recall that being a topic of conversation.
No, I agree. Being that we're at the Park and Rec Commission, I thought maybe this would be a place to start. I do not have any ideas offhand, unless want to have a contest or come up with some options.
Is there any former or current city residents that have had, let's say, a profound impact in terms of ensuring that there's recreational opportunities in the city, or, swimming or that sort of thing? Would there be, a resident that you'd want to recognize or honor in naming, or leave it open-ended in terms of putting it out to the community and do a true contest where there really isn't any underlying slant?
Well, we do have, with our short-term borrowing, we do have a naming option out there. Should somebody wants to make a considerable contribution, we could consider a naming option. Otherwise, yeah, I don't know of anybody off the top of my head. That could be maybe a Park and Rec discussion, community discussion on a person or a significant event. I think there's so much history here that I think we can come up with something better than the current name, unless this is what everyone's happy with.
Where this all kind of came from was discussion around the logo. We're looking at a logo for the area, or for the aquatic center, and the word complex really kind of kept coming up in discussion, that it sounds a little bit like a prison. So that was, I always call it aquatic center. I don't know if anybody else does, but that was one of the items that we were like, okay, we need to consider this before we have a logo formalized and everything. And so we're talking about it in a meeting and thought we would see what your thoughts are.
And And also Joe's online. He might have some thoughts too, being that he's been kind of a part of this process. But I just want to give him an opportunity if he had any thoughts on, since you might have some more experience or history.
Sure, I can give a little bit of history on it. So back when Common Council decided to start working on design, a number of older persons had been involved in design work along with staff and consultants. And initially, it was, I think the initial proposal was for aquatic center at Witter Field, was what was originally being looked at. As design moved on, there was anticipation of donors, and some of those anticipations didn't come to fruition. And the facility itself was more than an aquatic facility. And so I think it was in February of 2018 that that the name was put on the plans, and all those older persons that were involved in the discussions and, you know, came to the design meetings and that were aware of it. But at that time, it was aquatic, or Wisconsin Rapids Recreational Complex, because it's much more than an aquatics facility. And that was on all the documents since then. I think it was early February of 2018. And so that's the name that's on the front of the building. And, but I don't think, you know, anything has been, you know, aside from changing the name on the building and the cost associated with that, maybe some signing, you know, it's still Witter Field. It's just that the complex was named Recreational Complex. So that's a little of the backstory. As far as any recommendations, I don't really have any. I don't think we're so far along that you couldn't change it and it wouldn't be a little bit of a hiccup, you know, as far as we spent money on signs in the building, changing that up. But otherwise, you know, if there's a strong desire to change something, I suspect it'd be easier to do it sooner than later.
This is Tom here. I don't really have anything in mind to go to either. Just wondering if for right now, just maybe for discussion, or if somebody within the next month or so has some idea to come up with that we just come back and talk about it again. Nothing pops right into my head to change it to, if it was to be changed. So maybe something we just think about here for a short period of time to see if there is something.
I can take it back to staff and kind of get some thoughts and maybe a direction or an idea of what we could do going forward, and then bring it back and see what the commission's recommendation thoughts are.
I think, excuse me, I think that would be fine. I mean, the idea of, excuse me, incorporating Witter Field, incorporating, you know, that's where the old Lincoln High School is, and that's a fairly historic area of town, and has a lot of sentimental and other value, historical value, so it might be kind of neat to incorporate some aspects of that general area, you know, in the name. That's a bit more than just recreation complex or recreational complex. Sounds like a plan. So the deal would be that we're going to kind of toss out some possibilities or options, given the area and the use of the aquatic center as it is, and bring it forward again in another month or so. Does that sound okay to the rest of the commission? Very good. Moving on then to item 4, discussion and possible action on plan for aquatic center opening. That being any restrictions on resident versus non-resident attendance, and or any restrictions on capacity. I would assume that, what's our opening date? What's our anticipated opening date?
We're looking at June 7th.
June 7th?
Yep.
Okay.
And we're still waiting for Wood County Health to give us word on if there are going to be any restrictions. But they said they won't be getting back to us till late May probably, so it's just too early with the whole COVID thing yet, so. And then, we were also thinking about having no geographical restrictions this year. I don't know what the common council or parks board thinks about that.
So just going up, well, I mean, I think it goes without saying that there's going to still probably be COVID-19 around in June, although our numbers are very much lower than they were back in November, December. Probably similar to what they were when we were talking about opening it last summer. I think we have like 33 or 37 active cases in the county currently, and I would be inclined to think it's about similar to that as it was in last June, give or take, because we opened, well, we opened on time, but it was not till July, but that was because of the construction, right? That was because it would be ready to open at that time.
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah. My 2 cents on the topic, as long as I've got the floor currently, would be that we absolutely should open. I don't think there's any reason to think that we shouldn't. I think you got to have a backup plan, because God only knows what the numbers are going to do or where it's going to go. I'd be hard pressed to tell you what I think a capacity or limitation should be. I think my opinion, and again, this is just opinion, I'm not saying how it's going to be, I'm just sharing my opinion, would be, a starting point would be kind of as we operated last summer, as being maybe the minimum, and looking at possibilities of going from there with respect to circumstance and what the Wood County Public Health says and all these other pieces. But I don't see that it's much different now than it would have been back in July or so when we did open with the reduced attendance.
The only item that I would have about this is that we have sold some season passes to people outside of the geographical allowed area that we had last summer. I did let people know that if we did not open fully and they weren't allowed, that we would give a refund. But I guess that's something that we need to determine, and obviously the health department will help us with that, but I think opening and not having that restriction would be really nice this summer.
Mayor Blazer?
I agree with you. You know, and even further, I'll go and say that from last July to now, we've had a lot of people vaccinated. By the time we hit our opening date, the vaccine should be even further distributed. And speaking with the rafters, you know, same thoughts. And should there be some strange variant or something really kind of sets us off the wall that we need to reevaluate. But I also support fully opening and going forward and starting out the season strong this year.
Would you talk about limited capacity, though, on the front end, or would it just be capacity's capacity?
I'm kind of at the capacity point.
Okay.
But if the health department or something strange happens that changes our direction.
In last season, we did what, 400? Wasn't that what we considered capacity?
We upped it to 450 toward
450,
the end of
yeah.
the season,
450?
just to be sure that everyone could get in that wanted to.
Yeah, I think we started at 375.
Okay. And the capacity of the, without restrictions is 800?
Correct.
825 or 8, it's
Some-
right around 8,
Yeah.
Okay.
which is
thought-
pretty high.
Tom?
I thought during the year or towards the end that when it was full, people were questioning the design capacity, that it really can't function appropriately with 800 people in there.
I think that'll be the test, Tom. I agree that,
Yeah.
you know, people are saying that, you know, with staff too, is, you know, the number that was there was kind of comfortable. So if, I'm not sure what 600 is going to look like. I think 800 is going to be pretty full, no matter what's going on. I think the test will be to see some higher numbers to see actually how well it functions or not functions.
So are we just going to make that decision on the fly? You know what I'm saying? So you have some really busy days and then go, well, we're not doing that again, and then decrease it to 600 or some number less than, you know what I mean?
That's going to be
That's a good point.
a potential issue because let's say you have a busy day and somebody gets locked out, and we went through that last year with, a resident not getting in, but non-residents, and that, I don't know, that you might be creating some problems if you try to do this on the fly. So I don't know what the right answer is there, but I suppose that's always a potential problem, even if you ran at capacity. So, I don't know.
Yeah, we're not even sure if we can hit capacity, if is there enough interest or, I don't know. With the geo restriction lifted, I think definitely there's a greater potential that they'll draw some more people from some further distance. I remember getting a phone call from somebody I think wasn't it Sauk County? They didn't want to deal with the crowds in the Dells, and so they wanted to come up here instead. So I don't know.
In a general sense, it's like first come, first serve. Whatever the number of capacity is, if it's at capacity, you don't allow anybody else in, and if it's not, you do. That's pretty much what the protocol is, right?
Correct.
Okay. Matt?
I think we had enough experience last year to come to a recommendation from staff that 800 is not a realistic number. What the correct number is going to be, I guess I couldn't say at this point, but I'd venture to guess the real number where you can still have an enjoyable experience is going to be somewhere in that 500 to 600 range. So it may be to our benefit in case we would go to a full opening before we open to have a number set to avoid a situation like Tom's referring to where that number vacillates through the whole summer and people, get frustrated because they really don't know what we're dealing with. So I guess my thought would be we should pick a number. If we have to change it, at least would be a little closer to where we think we should be. So I'm thinking somewhere closer to 600 would be a limit, and then we'd have to see how that works, this season. And if we have to change it, we could probably struggle through for this season and lower it next year if we have to again. But 800's not doable. Just from what we saw at the 400 level, there's no way you could do 800 there and actually have a pleasant experience.
I think I agree with that. Oh, go ahead, Tom.
Okay, yeah. Right now, I don't have a problem that we look at that we open it. I did oppose it last year. I think we've made progress with the pandemic. It's coming along, going away, hopefully, and with vaccinations that on the rise. I think there's something again that, along with the health department, said maybe us making a decision tonight on the number is to see what the health department comes up with and what there is. Hopefully, there's no big uptick in whatever. But instead of saying 650 or 550 or whatever, that let's look at that. We're going to open this with precautions, but and I think 600 is probably going to be stretching it for capacity for people to really have a good time there. Seeing when there's 400 and 450 last year, obviously with the COVID going on like it was, but it was crowded in there. And so a lot of the staff and that, it's a lot of extra pressure to put onto them. And realistically, I think the number that we were given of 822 is way out of bounds for what we probably can really service there. So I think it's, let's look at, let's plan an opening. I think it was June 7th was the date that was kicked out here. Open as much as we can, but see what the health department, how everything shapes up. And we've got to, I guess, over the course of the next couple of months or so that see what happens, realistically, how we can do it. But for now, I'd look that way to plan on opening it.
I would agree with that. And I think you need to have a plan to say, okay, capacity is going to be this number, which maybe it's 650 or 625 or 550, whatever. And then, by the way, we still might, because of COVID, it might be 400, just like it was last summer. I think you got to kind of plan for both potential scenarios. But clearly, there's no reason right now that you'd make any different decision than you did last summer, in my opinion.
Didn't we propose the number to Wood County Health last year? And I thought we
think we
proposed
did.
the number and they
Yep.
agreed.
Yep, but we definitely proposed the 450, and they said that'd be okay. But I think, I think we did propose a 375 at first time.
And-
That's correct.
And
The city proposed the plan, and Wood County wasn't in a position to either approve or deny, but they did give it a thumbs up and suggested that it seemed like a responsible plan, and so that's what we went forward with. I would agree. I think there's two issues here. One is COVID-related, and the other is just general operations. I think, based on our observations, I think that our staff's suggestions that 800 is probably too many for an enjoyable experience is correct. That said, the facility is designed for 822. It meets all the state codes for that capacity. We are in the process of purchasing a patron counter so that we can monitor that count as patrons enter and leave. But I think from a standpoint of COVID, it would be best if the approach were, look, open it as you normally would, and that last month, as we're prepping the pool, if there's issues or restrictions that we feel we need to place, at that point, it'd be appropriate to reconvene if necessary. And obviously, being able to send the public the message that, yeah, look, we're planning to open as normal. If you are from outside of the area and you purchase a family pass, and for some reason, due to whether it's unplanned geo-restricting or whatever, that the city would refund it, or normally those are not refundable. And then if we want to set a number for operational, I think that's fine. I hate to be too restrictive, but at the same time, we want to make sure that it's a pleasant experience for everybody that's attending.
I'm inclined to think the health department's not going to give you anything definitive until probably middle or even late May.
Yeah, that's
They
what they
had
keep
said late
telling us,
May.
yeah.
Way too hard to tell.
Yeah, they said late May when we
Yeah.
checked with them.
and that'll be after our meeting, our normal meeting anyway, so.
Well, just like the last time, though, we'll know more next month, and we'll know more the month after that. And I don't know that much is going to, hopefully nothing changes and it only continues to get more positive, but yeah, play it by ear. So the recommendation from staff then would be to open on time as planned on June 7th with no restrictions based off of geographical area?
That was just my personal opinion. I think staff probably feels more comfortable around, is it 600?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, and then that's,
Well-
because I'm wondering about, because last summer we did, like, you could only, if you were only from certain,
Oh, yeah.
the city or certain municipalities, right?
Right, that's correct.
Rather than from anywhere, thinking that who knows where they're coming from, it could be a hotspot per se.
Yep.
Don, how many non-resident passes have been sold so far this year?
I'd have to look. If you can give me a second, I can look it up.
I struggle a little bit putting,
I would like to mention, though, that in, last year with the geo restrictions, the objective there, because Wood County had a low case count, the objective was to try to avoid bringing people into an area. At this point in time, it's everywhere. And so I don't know that geo restrictions really make a whole lot of sense, being that we're on the backside of it and it is a widespread situation. I think that if there are some restrictions, and we do need to reduce our capacity at that point, it might make some sense, whether or not our residents are going to get the short stick if that's the case or not. But I don't think otherwise geo restrictions really make a whole lot of sense in the climate that we're in now.
Yeah, that was kind of my point. And what I would say is that I think what you're alluding to, Joe, is that you can implement that if you need to.
Right.
Then the only other caveat I would say is then we've got to be cognizant of what's going on in probably our neighboring counties and, And clearly, if you got somebody from a county that is nowhere near here and they're coming, I don't know that I have a super huge concern with that, given our current climate right now either, but 2-3 months from now, who knows, is all I'm saying. So,
So where are we at? Because I'm sort of on the not restricting capacity bandwagon.
I think this, again, what I'm gathering from the conversation is we're going to open on June 7th. We're not going to worry about where people are from on the front end unless we have reason to. And then I think we should set or decide what that upper limit might be based on staff feedback. And then, of course, you can implement restrictions based on people allowed to attend. That could change. You could also implement restrictions based on geographic area. That could change as well. But on the front end, it would be opening on June 7th at X capacity, which I'm gathering is something like 600 or something like that, as far as staff responses are concerned. And that's it. First come, first serve. When it's full, it's full. When it's not, you can go in, and it doesn't really matter where you're coming from as long as you paid to get in.
We've never had 600 there, have we?
No.
So that's what I'm struggling with. Why do we pick that number when we don't have that experience yet?
Well, for me, it was that there was like, 425 or 450 at a high point, and it seemed pretty busy. And that was with the restrictions. And so if you said 800, which is what, or 825, whatever the stated capacity was, that must be a certain number of people per square foot or something like that,
Correct, yeah.
which basically is shoulder to shoulder. If you're in a pool, shoulder to shoulder with people, it's, not entertaining. So I think the 600 is just the grab bag between 400 and some, 425, and what, stated full capacity of 825 would be, kind of settling in a mid-range of 600, allowing us to gauge, are we going to get 600, first off? And secondly, if we do, is it even going to be a place people want to be? Because then you can go to what my father-in-law says, it's too busy, nobody goes there anymore.
Right.
I think Craig summed it up very well. We're trying to strike a happy medium between trying to get, high enough capacity where we're not turning people away, but yet making it a pleasant experience for everybody. And that 600 number just seems to fall, in a safe zone, if you will.
So the other question I had too was if we, like last summer, when we were at our certain number, there were days that we turned people away because we were at capacity, and how many times did that happen? Or did we never really get to capacity because people didn't want to?
I think there were a couple times that people were turned away, but if that was the case, they would only have to wait about 15, 20 minutes for somebody to leave, and then they could enter. So, I don't think it got to be a huge problem. There were peak hours of the day when it was hotter and,
Yeah.
probably between noon and 1, I would say it was busier coming in, but
And because of the pandemic, I'd gather some people were like, nope, I'm not going, which
Right.
that'll be a little wrinkle this year too. Maybe, maybe not.
that's what makes it tough to get a read on where we're going to be at this year and how many people are going to feel comfortable coming and how many did last summer. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right, and I think just because we haven't operated anywhere near capacity, it'll be a learning experience again for us. We may come back, staff may have a recommendation that, look, we want to see capacity at 600. At that point, only city residents would be allowed after that, or something, right? But we do need to really see what it looks like, with a few more people there, to really get a good feel for it.
So in that regard then, Joe, is the recommendation that we just open without any stated capacity aside from what the maximum capacity is, and then identify from staff what it may become?
Well, I think, staff is recommending 600. I think it would be easier to increase it than to decrease it. And so, Matt and Dawn and staff were down there more than I. I saw it a few times and looked pretty busy at 400, 450. So I would recommend that we set a capacity of 600 at this point in time, and that we evaluate that up or down, depending on COVID and operationally how it works out.
So we would need a action in that regard to open on June 7th, set the upper end capacity at 600, no restrictions aside from first come, first serve. And then make modifications as deemed necessary by the county health department, local factors, other county case rates potentially for geographic changes, and then subsequent staff feedback around whether or not 600 is a palatable number or it can go higher or lower from there. Would that be kind of what we're looking to approve?
Yes.
It's a long one. In that regard, then, I'd entertain a motion in that, of that nature, if anybody's brave enough.
I'll make that motion. You want me to repeat it? I'll make a motion that we open June 7th with no geographical restrictions, with a beginning of the year capacity of 600. I think I covered it all, didn't I? Okay. Okay.
Based on Wood County's recommendation.
Yes,
Yeah.
and then also pending Wood County's recommendations.
And noting that it could change at any time, given circumstance.
Correct.
Is there a second?
I'll second that, Chris.
So there's a motion and a second to approve the opening of the Aquatic Center on June 7th with a capacity of 600 on the front end, and no restrictions other than first come, first serve, awaiting final blessing or feedback from the health department, as well as considering local and geographical factors as we proceed. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is the update on outdoor rec plan. Is that
Yeah.
Kyle? Kyle was on, now he's not.
Otherwise, I can cover.
You got her?
Yep.
Okay.
We're actually having a Zoom meeting tomorrow with heirs. We're just going to do a quick introduction of key individuals, kind of like a brief verbal tour, like the state of the park system. And then we're going to be touching on subjects like the high use of the parks, the park system issues that we see, programming, the trails that we provide, and kind of just our list of priorities on what we want out of this consultant. And then going from there, we are just going to be talking about the next step and scheduling the next meeting. So that's what we got for airs tomorrow afternoon at 1:30, I believe.
Can you refresh my memory, like how long of a process is this plan development?
I think they said about 6 months.
Okay. And it includes community feedback and surveys and,
Correct.
okay.
Yep. Yep.
Any other questions about the outdoor recreation plan? Hearing none, we'll move on to an update on renovations at the zoo.
Yep. As we stand today, the parrot pen is, I would say, about 90% finished. We actually had American Fence come there today to give us an estimate on installing the fence. I think I sent some pictures to Dawn, and I think she sent those pictures to everyone to kind of just see the progress on that. We are now on to the stage of working on the entrance, and as of right now, that's coming along really nice, and it just kind of it's making the zoo look really presentable and inviting. So we're very excited about that.
Any other questions for Jake or Matt about the zoo?
Well, the pictures look great. And I understand you're opening on Memorial Day.
That's correct, yep.
Yep, looks good, thanks.
All right, moving on to item 7 then is the bills. Did anybody have an opportunity to review the bills? We all have them in our packet. It looks like the vast majority of them are in fact the zoo, including the parrot pen.
I have one question on the peak software, but I don't know what that is. Software?
That's our recreational and reservation software, and it'll also be our timekeeping software over at the pool. It's how we sell our aquatics passes. It's basically everything that we operate in our
Yeah.
office is based out of that software.
It must be replacing something.
It's our annual fee
Oh,
for
this
it.
is the annual.
Yep.
Got it.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve the bills as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and a second to approve the bills as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Sorry, too quick. Opposed? Motion carries. Staff reports. Matt, Jake, who's taking it?
Yep, I can do it. Last Friday, we removed the ice rink plastic at the Aquatic Center. This week, we'll be taking down the load board hockey at Robinson Park. That tarp at the Aquatic Center was very interesting and a little more difficult than we thought, being the first time doing that, but we didn't lose it. We are continuing to trim back all the city's mowing routes with 2 brush crews every day. We added a bunch of 17, to be precise, 17 LED lights in the city garage and the Butler building. We have accepted an offer for the aquatic maintenance position, and we are now going through the hiring process. This Wednesday, barring any weather, now that it's snowing right now, we plan on opening the skateboard park this Wednesday, March 17th. Hopefully getting the pickleball nets put back up at Witter Park sometime this week, again, weather dependent. And then, like we talked about before, finishing up the zoo project with the parrot pen and the main entrance. And then just to give everyone a heads up, this is Matt's last Parks Commission meeting. He'll be leaving us next Friday. And that's all I have.
Well, that's, it's only been going on 4 years for me, Matt. I don't, how many years do you have with the city here?
Just short of 13.
Okay. And any plans into retirement that you're willing to share?
I actually will work part-time somewhere and hope to do a little camping and enjoy life.
Awesome. You know, there's all kinds of subbing jobs at the school district in case you're interested.
I'll keep that in mind.
Or lifeguarding jobs.
Yeah, there's plenty of work if you're looking for it. Well, congratulations and thank you for the service to the city that you've provided for the last 13 years.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Was there another comment out there?
Nope, I was just saying congratulations. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have a quick follow-up question. So with the ice rink at the Aquatic Center, there was talk, and I'm sure Joe remembers this, that there was talk about, concern that where it was going to be placed, that it might cause damage to the lot or where the rink sat. Do you remember that, Matt and Joe? When that came up? Or am I making that up in my head?
I don't know that we were talking about the rink in the parking lot as much as we were talking the low board hockey, because that was originally intended to go on the grass over there, and the grass wasn't established, so we decided to hold off a year on that.
Oh,
As far as damage to the lot, we put an underlayment down, and then we put that liner on, and I don't think I took a drive over there and looked it over the other day, and I can't see any sign of any damage whatsoever.
looks just like the day when you put it down.
Correct.
Yep.
I thought do you guys remember that conversation, Tom? No? Oh,
Other than a sweeping, it's good to go.
great. And Mary's report is included. I don't see her. Is Mary attending? Any other staff reports then?
I have one more question. Does the skate park also open at the same time around Memorial Day, or does that open earlier?
We're hoping to open at this Wednesday, so March 17th. Of course, weather
Okay.
dependent, so a couple of days.
Is that porta potty still there, or has that issue resolved itself?
The porta potty is not there, but we would just have to reorder that.
Is that our plan?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. 'Cause the bathroom's there on the outside. I just don't feel Like, we need to open those right now.
Yeah. Wasn't there updates of surveillance cameras over at the skate park too that we had intended to do?
I think, Joe, we're still working with Permar on that, right? We're just seeing if that money was budgeted for this year.
Yes, we've got an estimate, or a quotation from them. I don't think we did not budget specifically for that, so we'd have to take a look and see. And I don't have that quote in front of me, Jake. Do you recall what the cost was?
I do not know.
If that's a project that we want to take out of hotel motel, do it as a capital project. If you continue for a moment, I will look it up. I think I have it fairly handy here.
I can talk briefly about something else while he's doing that. Tom, you can update me if I get anything wrong, but we had a legislative committee meeting where we discussed the roles and responsibilities of Park and Rec Commission. It's kind of always been a debated topic. So what was decided was that I was requested to put together an ad hoc committee, excuse me, of 2 council persons and 2 Park and Rec Commission members for us to meet and kind of try to delineate some of the roles and responsibilities. I obviously strongly favor Park and Rec to have some authority to make decisions, and council has their responsibilities also. So I've asked Tom and Jay Bemke from Common Council to sit on that committee, and I plan to ask Tom Eklund and Chris Bartek if they want to sit on the other half from the Park and Rec side, where we can get together and try to figure out roles and responsibilities. And so kind of working on that too.
Chris, did you
The
say,
total- I'm sorry.
Chris, did you say that you're interested?
Yes, I will.
Great. Thank you. Was there other commentary on that topic? Matt?
Craig, to the point with the camera before, I believe we talked about having that as an agenda item at the next meeting.
Oh,
So just food for thought, it's $5,680 is the proposal for that. That's 2 cameras, and the hardware, and the power switches and all that to fully be able to observe that skate park.
I think given circumstance that law enforcement would fully appreciate some ability to have better surveillance of that area.
Yeah.
Do we do bids? So Permar, I'm guessing, does our security cameras elsewhere? Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, that's correct. They have everything there in the aquatic center. It's all Permar.
So it would make sense then that you're going to kind of tie into that?
Correct, yeah.
To me, that'd be something we should take care of.
Is rest of the park sufficiently covered? Aside from maybe some adjustments?
It doesn't really reach out very well to the playground. It's,
Yeah, there was issues over there.
yeah, I mean, they go behind the playground, kind of closer to the center field wall. You can't see nothing. I know we had some concrete busted up last year with rocks, and like I said before, you just can't zoom in close enough to see the individuals.
I wonder if you could go off the pickleball court fence or something like that to cover that backside area?
I think that'd be too far as well.
Oh, too far, that,
Yeah.
yeah. Because there was an issue last year with that abandoned stroller and some of that stuff too, where law enforcement was looking to see if we had cameras at East that went that far over, and of course we don't. I wonder
We
if
can
we,
talk to Permar. My expectation is that if we want to really capture the playground area and splash pad, there's going to be need for at least 2 more, perhaps 3 more cameras out there.
How about in the washroom? We had something happen in there, or maybe they weren't aimed properly, or,
Correct. Permar came back and they fixed that issue. They moved the cameras around, and now we have a better angle at kids walking into the bathrooms.
okay. Well, I agree with the comments, though. I mean, we should look at all the need there, not just piecemeal it.
especially as much of a target it seems to have been for damage. I would agree. I think that's a good idea to have Parmar take a look at seeing what they can do for additional cameras to make sure that park is covered.
The other topic, Mayor Blazer, that came up at that legislative committee meeting too, because I listened into that as a result of my role on the Park and Rec Commission, in addition to the fact that there's a conversation around city versus non-city residents appointed to or assigned to various commissions and committees. And, you know, this being my fourth year here, I think it stands to reason that people recognize, I think that I've mentioned it to the commission before, I do not reside within the city of Wisconsin Rapids city limits. I live in Grand Rapids. However, under city ordinance, the school superintendent is an ex officio committee member, or part of the Parks and Rec Commission, and therefore took the seat, as did my predecessor. And I will simply just call out and say that I think there's a value in working with the city, particularly in the Park and Rec area in the school district, but frankly, if the city council sees fit to make modifications to the ordinance, that's absolutely beyond my control. And my goal and role being here has nothing to do with anything other than, you know, hoping to act in the best interests of the city and our Park and Rec department for amenities for the kids in the community. So I know the topic wasn't personal. I just wanted to toss that out there. It's not something that I'm, you know, concealing or hiding from people. But that's the way circumstances kind of ended up. And I think the former superintendent also lived in the Grand Rapids area as well. So.
You're not getting away that easy.
Yeah, I agree. I think by the nature, and I think I said at the meeting, by the nature of certain offices, the necessity for what those people represent in those offices is a very important and vital role on boards and commissions, no matter where you live, especially even as in your case, you know, with Park and Rec and your ties to the school district. I think that's very valuable to the community to have your representation here, and other staff members that, you know, that don't live in the city on a board or commission. I think what they provide, given the nature of their jobs, is an integral part of those boards and commissions.
I appreciate that, and I know full well, based on my own personal circumstance, working with a Board of Education, that I'm one voice. I mean, I wield no more power than anybody else on the commission, which is the way it should be. So, but thank you.
I agree with all that was said.
Anything else for the good of the order?
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion to second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you so much.